All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT practice question series where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're turning, welcome back. Please subscribe and like our videos. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. During a 45-minute group lesson, you record 18 instances of out-of-seat behavior. The next day, during a 15-minute observation, you record 12 instances. The teacher asked which day was worse for out-of-seat behavior. What would you report if you were reporting rate? The key to this question is to know that you are reporting rate. Remember, rate is our frequency with a time component. So we're counting how many times the behavior happens and is happening, and then we're adding a time component to it. So if this teacher says, well, which day was worse, she's going to be asking, as far as rate goes, on what day did the behavior happen more often, right? And by often, we mean how many times per minute or session did it happen. So if we have a 45-minute group lesson and out-of-seat behavior happened 18 times versus a 15-minute lesson or observation where it happened 12 times, well, even though 18 is more than 12, given the length of time, since we're using rate, the behavior is happening more in the 15-minute lesson. So if we look at A, would you report day one because 18 is greater than 12? If she was asking just for frequency, yes, but the teacher wants the rate. So we've got to look at B, day two, the rate is higher, 0.8 per minute versus 0.4 per minute. And this is a really good example of the difference between just a count and actually using a rate. And each one has a purpose. So you need to be very sure on the exam, am I using a count or am I actually using rate? You can see how they can differ. C, because we read all of our answer choices, both were the same since the behavior occurred across sessions. Well, obviously not. It's obviously a different rate. And D, it cannot be compared without duration. You don't need a duration for rate, you just need a unit of time. So for this teacher who wants rate as far as worse, we would report day two because the rate was higher. Supervisor asks you to record how long it takes for the client to start each math problem after the teacher says next one. Across 5 trials, you record 5 seconds, 9 seconds, 2 seconds, 18 seconds, and 12 seconds. The parent asks for average response time. What would it be? Okay, so we've got back-to-back questions with measurement, but not only measurement, but actual numbers, and this can intimidate some people. Just remember the math and the numbers on the exam, and even in practice, are going to be very straightforward. The hardest part here is knowing how to find an average. Because if your supervisor is asking you to record how long it takes for the client to start each math problem after the teacher says next one, well, what are you recording? You're recording time in between the instruction and the behavior, which is just latency. So if we're looking for an average response time of all of our data, how do you find the average? Well, to find the average, you're going to add up all your data points, 5 plus 9 plus 2 plus 18 and 12, and then divide it by total points, which is 5, and that's going to give you 9.2. And if you can find a simple average, this question becomes very straightforward. If you're uncomfortable finding an average, even though they give you a calculator on the exam, you want to practice this a few times. How do I find a simple average of a group of numbers? Because you might be asked that at some point or have to find that value. The good news again is once you understand how to find averages, this becomes a very simple question. The client's parent insists, please write down at least 4 tantrums today so insurance keeps paying for our services. He really needs you. No tantrums occurred that day. What should you do? This is a very tough spot to be in when, let's say, you've developed a relationship, or even if you haven't, but we're always kind of fighting with insurance companies to get funding and have to do the right things. And if we've made progress or if we're no longer showing need for services, then sometimes this is what happens. So you might get a situation where you're asked to maybe exaggerate the data or falsify data because they don't want to lose services or we don't want to lose services. You just can't do that, right? Ethically and legally, it's just not allowed. Okay. So if this parent is asking you to falsify data, essentially, write down 4 tantrums, and no tantrums occurred, well, one, and you need to protect yourself, right? You can't be in a position where you're pressured to falsify data. Until you definitely can't do it. So, A, follow the request since it benefits services. Even if that's true, even if this client is losing services, we cannot falsify data, put yourself in jeopardy, and lie about something not happening. B, report the parent to the insurance company. That's not your job. That's going to be the supervisor's job, but this does need to be reported to your supervisor. C, leave data blank to avoid conflict. You just need to record accurate data. D, right? Record what happened and notify the BCBA of the parent's request. As the RBT, more often than not, especially if you've been studying, you're going to notice that your role involves a lot of reporting to the BCBA or the supervisor because this is not your place, okay? Don't falsify data, but then let the supervisor handle what to do next with this parent and with the insurance company. So all you're going to do, keep your data accurate and immediately notify your supervisor. You're teaching a client to read the word stop. At first, the word is printed on big red letters. Over time, you reduce the size and color until the client reads stop on plain paper. What teaching method is this? So it's saying teaching method, and it's a kind of a loose use of the word or the phrase teaching method. What we're doing here, right, is obviously a prompt. You want the client to read the word stop. So what happens is the word is printed in huge red letters. Over time, you start reducing size and color until it's just regular stop on plain paper. Now with prompts, we have 2 types, right? We have response prompts and we have stimulus prompts. Stimulus prompts act directly on the stimulus itself. So we're changing something about the stimulus. Response prompts are acting on the response or evoking that certain response by acting directly on the response we want to see. So this can be a model prompt, this can be a physical prompt, gestural prompt, that sort of thing. In this case, we are having a stimulus prompt because we have printed in big red letters the word stop, and then we're reducing the amount of prompts until it's just regular stop. So what will we call that? A, reinforcement fading. We're not discussing the reinforcement here, right? We're discussing the stimulus stop and how we're changing it to evoke a response. Well, are you fading in prompts? No, we're actually reducing the prompt. Fading in means we're adding to it. Are you stimulus fading? Yes, you're fading out the big red letters, the size, the color. You're reducing and fading out that stimulus until you get regular stop on plain paper. And then D, what about a task analysis? Clearly not a task analysis, right? You're not breaking down this behavior into steps. What you're doing is you're fading out your prompts. You're fading the stimulus. So this is going to be C, stimulus fading. On your first day with a new client, you spend the session playing their favorite game, giving snacks, and laughing with them without placing demands. What is the purpose of these leisure activities? Now, why would you do this? Why would you go meet a new client and just spend the day with them? Favorite game, you're just giving them snacks and laughing. We're not talking work here. We're not talking behavior plans, any of that. You're just spending time with them. Well, this is a very important piece of the client RBT relationship and something that shouldn't be skipped. If you're being instructed by your BCBA to skip this part, that's a problem because this right here is how you're going to start pairing yourself with reinforcements and establishing yourself not only as a conditioned reinforcer, right, but someone the client wants to be around. So you'd never just walk up to somebody you didn't know and act like you had a relationship. We have to do the same thing with clients. Don't just pretend because maybe you're working with kids that you have a relationship with them. You don't yet. You have to develop that. So what is the true purpose of this? A, to establish yourself as a conditioned reinforcer through pairing. Absolutely. You want the client, when they see you, to be happy, to be ready for session. That is the whole entire point of what this is called, which is rapport building. B, to build instructional control by using extinction. You're not using interventions yet. You're just pairing yourself with all of these great things that the client already likes. C, to conduct a free operant preference assessment. Now, you can make anecdotal notes, right? Mental notes about what the client's playing with, but you're still not doing anything systematic. D, there's no real purpose other than to get to know the client. You are getting to know the client, but you're doing it for a very real purpose, which is building rapport or establishing yourself as a conditioned reinforcer through pairing. Once again, don't skip this part. It's extremely, extremely important in that relationship building phase. Thanks for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.